The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am the host and co-chair of today's webinar. My name is Karen Mann, and I'm here with my co-chair, Sadita Hassi. We represent the Human Development and Leadership Division of the American Society for Quality. This is a global division aiming to enrich the personal and professional lives of our members and non-members across the global community. We continuously look for new speakers within the range of our body of knowledge, which can be found in my ASQ HD&L community site. We host monthly webinars, so if you're interested or if you know of anyone that is interested, we would be happy to review their application. Before we begin the webinar, let me go over some webinar rules. If there is any question or comment, please type your question in question tab and we will answer that questions in the very end. The webinar will be held for 45 minutes and then we will have some time for Q&A for 15 minutes. Those who attend for 40 minutes will receive 0.1 CEU through an email, which you can save and use to claim the credit with ASQ. We're very happy to and delighted to introduce to you our guest speaker for today, Tony. So Tony Belilovskiy is, sorry, my laptop froze. He joined C3 Excellence team following a very successful career in healthcare and business. His diverse expertise includes engineering in metallurgy, ballistics, licensed clinic, healthcare administration, auditor, healthcare consulting, and entrepreneurial business ownership. His experience ranges from clinical healthcare admin, healthcare IT, contract admin and negotiation, financial analysis, quality and leadership, cultural change, project management and strategic planning, and business and people management, systems and implementation, mergers, data analysis, data migration, medical claim analysis, college and university course development, and varied projects that come with owning your own management consulting business. Tony holds both Bachelor in Cardiopulmonary Sciences and Master's in Healthcare Management and Administration from Northeastern University in Boston, Associate's degree in Metallurgy from Odessa Polytechnic Institute in Odessa, Ukraine. He is registered respiratory therapist and a certified professional coder. In addition to all the above, Tony is also an accomplished classical pianist. He resides in Sarasota, Florida with his wife of over 20 years with 3 daughters. Tony, we are delighted to have you with us today, and the floor is all yours to share some beautiful knowledge with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. I am really glad to be doing this presentation for the ASQ today. I know that I've done multiple presentations on various topics to different ASQ audiences, but this is the first time I'm presenting for this group of people, and this is by far my favorite topic, voice of the customer. I think that is one of the most important topics that we can be talking about, and this topic is relevant for everyone. And this is truly the basis of everything that we do at work, even though it doesn't seem like it. But hopefully, when I'm done in 45 minutes, you will have a very different perspective on what the voice of the customer means and what we can do with that. So this is me, and you can see me on the screen. And I want to actually start my presentation with a poll. And before we actually do that, just one word of what we're going to be doing today. This is an excerpt of a very interactive not necessarily a webinar, but very interactive workshop that I converted into the webinar. So this is more of a tell versus ask type of presentation, but I'm still going to be asking questions. I'm going to be answering them, but most likely you will be answering those questions with me. So, Sarita, How about our first poll?
I'm all ready. So we're going to launch the first poll. Just type your answers, yes or no. Some of you might don't even know, but if you don't know, just type no. So that's the question for you today. So do you currently have a voice of the customer initiative in your company? That's moving fast, but we'll give it a few more seconds. If you don't know about it, it means that it's not such a big initiative or hasn't gone in the right place for you to know. So that's a no for you. Okay. We have 63% voted. We'll close it. $68. We'll close it now. Okay. So we have 70% voting, and the results are, as you see, 49% say yes, 51% say no. That's why I was holding a bit longer, because it's almost a tie. The screen is back to you, Tony. Thanks.
Thank you. That is actually great. This is better than I thought, because usually if we would ask the live audience, it would be probably about 20 to 30% will say, yes, we have some kind of initiatives. And let's, if we would run this poll in the very end, most likely the number will go dramatically down, because after you actually realize what voice of the customer entails, you may think otherwise, whether what your initiative that you have is truly a voice of the customer initiative. And that is the purpose for today, just to make sure that you understand what it all means. And again, if you have further questions, in the end, you will have my email. You can ask me questions directly. I'm glad to answer any of the questions or provide you with any information about it. So these are the objectives for today. This is what we're going to try to achieve today with today's lecture. Let's look at these three words: process, product, and outcome. Think about those three words and think about what you use the most at your workplace. Think about all of the topics of the meetings, trainings, manuals, emails, conversations. Are we addressing process, product, or an outcome? If we have an audience of 100 quality professionals, and we have 98 right now, so we're pretty much there, about 95 of them will say that we're addressing process, because that's what we know how to do and what to do. That's what we're trained in. We're trained in process, where everything is all about process. We know process, we improve process, we create process, we tweak process, we develop process. Now, let's talk about what kind of process are we talking about. Are we talking about the process above the line, which is dimension number 4, customer process, or we're talking about process below the line, which is dimension number 8, producer process? And the answer is, we're talking about our process, how we're going to produce our products, which is dimension number 8. We know everything there is to know about process. We can measure it and we can improve it. But if we got it right, and if you imagine this as one of the cylinders of an 8-cylinder engine, where's the opportunity? Where's the room for improvement? Because that cylinder is working perfectly fine. So what do we need to do? Well, we actually need to address the other 7 areas. And that's what we're going to try to do today. So if you look at this diagram, I can spend 2 hours just talking about this diagram and how it is applicable to pretty much anything we do in both our professional and personal lives. But we're just going to address 2 little things here. If you look at the numbering, does it look weird to you? Because it doesn't go from left to right like we usually do it. It goes from right to left. Why do you think that is? Well, it is because we always want to start with the end in mind. We need to know what the goal is. We need to know what the outcome is. What are we trying to achieve by doing this? By creating this process, what are we going to achieve? What are we going to solve? What are we going to produce? What the end is going to look like? And if you look at the outcome section, we have 4 dimensions that deal with outcomes. We have customer desired and customer undesired outcomes. What do customers want from buying the products that we're producing? And also dimensions 5 and 6. what do we want and what we don't want from our product. Well, dimension 5 could be, for example, the profits. How much profit we're going to make from our product. What are the market share of our product, the customer loyalty. Number 6 is what we don't want, which is the warranty claims. We don't want rework. We don't want customers to go and choose another product because ours is not necessarily what they were hoping it would be. But customers have exactly the same relationship with the product, and they are in dimension 1 and 2 that we usually don't address. Dimension 7 addresses technical characteristics of the product that we're producing. Well, dimension number 3 actually addressing the same characteristics from the customer standpoint. How easy is it to actually use your product? How easy it is to work with it? And then we were talking about process. How are we going to produce the product, which is dimension number 8. Dimension number 4 is customer acquisition process. How easy it is to install. How easy it is to get to use the product that we just purchased. Think about software that you need to load and it doesn't work and you have to call 1-800 number to have it fixed. That's where it resides. So anything above the line is called voice of the customer or customer experience. Two very different things. We tend to use them interchangeably, but think about it. Customer experience is what we give to the customer with our product. Voice of the customer is what they actually want from the product. Two very different things. And what we want to do, we actually want to make sure that those two things are as close to each other as possible. On the bottom of this diagram, we have voice of the producer, our voice. What do we want from our product and what is our relationship with the product? So in order for us to be successful as an enterprise, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we listen to both sides. Both sides are equally important. But a lot of times what is happening is we tend to listen to us, which is producers. So we always need to make sure that we listen to both sides of the equation. This, what we're talking about, is actually a piece of a transformation strategy for the organization to be more customer-centric. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be only addressing the items that are in the yellow, but the items 1 through 4 are more of a strategic items that have to be said by the C-suite of the companies, the CEOs, the executives, because that's the direction. Those are the outcomes. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Item number 5 is the transition between the strategic and operational. And items number 6 through 10 are the operational modules. So we're going to be addressing items number 5, 6, 7, and 8 today. In order for us to address this, we have to address levers of change and ambiguity. One of the most important items and tools that we have in our disposal is language. Language can make it or break it. When we deal with voice of the customer, language is one of the most important things that we have, because what we say is what customers hear. But are we really saying what we mean? Does our language that we're using is understandable by everybody? Meaning, do they hear the same thing that we meant to say? Are we really speaking the same language? Think IT. When IT person starts talking, do you really understand everything that they're saying? Think healthcare. Anybody from healthcare, they start telling you all this clinical terminology. Do you really understand everything that they're telling you? Well, in order for us to be on the same page, we need to have language that is completely unambiguous and understandable by everyone. And language is what we're going to be using throughout this presentation, and I will show you how manipulating the language will yield huge results. And so we have to have very clear language in order for us to clearly communicate what our values are as a company, how we're going to measure those values, which is extremely important. Because a lot of companies say, you know, customer service is our #1 priority. Well, do you measure it? Do you have measures of success, numerical goals for improvement? Well, if you don't measure it, as far as I'm concerned, you don't value it. Then we need to figure out who has the power. Is it us, the producers, or the customers? If it's the customers, what kind of customers? And we're going to be talking about different roles that customers can play with our product. We need to have realistic assumptions. Assumptions are extremely important. I cannot understate or overstate what it means. If you think about the most recent happenings with Boeing Corporation, assumptions was listed as #2 reason why those 2 planes crashed, because Boeing had incorrect assumptions about the level of training that their pilots would receive on for any airline around the world. And they were wrong. They had wrong assumptions. And modeling. I am not talking about mathematical or statistical or financial modeling. I'm talking about modeling the right behavior. Modeling the right behavior, because if you want to listen to the customer, if you want to implement voice of the customer, well, it's got to start from the top. You know, if the C-suite or executives don't care about it, you know, why should I care when I am somewhere in the middle of below? You know, if they don't practice it, why should I be practicing it? So modeling the right behavior. Okay, we said language is important, so let's start defining things. Customer desired outcomes. Let's do the definition of what it means. Customer desired outcomes is the reason why customer came to buy our products that we're producing. That's the reason why customers came to work with our enterprise. When we are customers of any kind of enterprise, we have 20/20 vision. We know exactly what we want, we know exactly how we want it, and we know exactly where we want it. Now, when we go to the same enterprise, but we're on the other side, all of a sudden that line gets blurry and we forget about certain things. So let's examine the evidence. You know, we're quality professionals, so we have to have at least 3 evidence in order for us to make a data point. So let's start with first industry that most of us have been a customers of, hospitality industry. Every single one of us has been a customer of the hospitality industry. Not necessarily right now, but prior to March, most of us have stayed in the hotel overnight for the business meeting the next morning. So let me ask you a question, and I know you can't answer me, but just answer it to yourself. What was the most desired outcome that you had from the overnight stay in the hotel for the business meeting the next morning?
Actually, Tony, they can use the question box if they want to share their responses.
Okay. And the answer most likely will be good night's sleep. That's what we wanted, because we're in that hotel to have a good night's sleep so we can have a successful meeting the next morning. Okay.
That was the first one. That was the first response we got.
Yeah. Because that's what we want when we stay in the hotel for the business meeting. Again, I stated the purpose of my stay in the hotel. Business meeting the next morning. The next day, when you check out of the hotel and you get the survey, do they ask you whether you had a good night's sleep? No, they don't. But that was your desired outcome from that stay in the hotel. Good night's sleep. But they are asking you whether your room was comfortable, whether it was quiet, whether the staff was courteous, whether the room was clean, everything under the sun, but not whether you had a good night's sleep. Why is that? Well, hang on, because we're going to answer that question. Now, would it matter? What is the reason why you stayed in the hotel? Let's examine that. For example, I'm checking into the hotel in Las Vegas for the conference. I'm a presenter at the conference, and all I want in that from that stay in the hotel is a good night's sleep. But there is a couple behind me who are on their honeymoon, checking into the same hotel. Well, good night's sleep is maybe not on their list of desired outcomes for that hotel stay, right? Does hotel have an opportunity to ask what is the purpose for your stay in the hotel? Is it business or pleasure? Yes, they can, and sometimes they do ask you that. But what do they do with that information? If you say hotel has no control over it, well, can they put me on one wing of the hotel and that couple in another wing of the hotel? Oh, yes, they can. Can they put me on one floor and the couple on another floor and not next to each other? Yes, they can. They have a lot of opportunity to do that, but they choose not to do that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Finance and investment industry. What is the most desired outcome that you have when you work with anybody in finance and investment industry? Well, most likely your answer will be wealth. You want to create wealth for yourself, right? So what is the most desired outcome that the finance industry has when they take your money? Well, they also want wealth. Isn't that coincidence? We both want the same thing. But now let me ask you a question. If the stock market goes down and your investments lose value, do you still have to pay your investment advisor the same amount as you would have had to pay if they would have increased the value? Yes, they do. Did you gain any profits? No, your desired outcomes have not been fulfilled, but the desired outcome of investment company has been fulfilled. Interesting. And finally, last but not least, every single one of us is expert in that one, healthcare. Every single one of us has had any kind of dealings with healthcare at one point or another. And what is the most desired outcome that we have when we work with anyone in healthcare? And most likely the answer would be good health. Good health. If I would be in the room with all of you present in the room, and I would ask 10 people in that room randomly, what good health means to you, what good health means to you, what good health means to you, I'll get 10 different answers. Same thing is happening when I'm talking to executives in healthcare. And I'm asking them, do you have a definition of good health? And the answer is no. So if we don't have a definition and we don't agree what it means, because it's personal for everyone, what is the likelihood we're going to have measures of success? Very unlikely. If we don't have measures of success, what is the likelihood that we're going to have numerical goals for improvement? We can't have them. If we don't have numerical goals for improvement, how do we know we have achieved good health? Well, we don't know. But let me give you a definition of good health that is written by World Health Organization. Here it is. Would that actually work for you? I bet it would. Do you care to find out when it was written? 1948. Unfortunately, our healthcare system has not really adopted this definition. But what they have adopted is a different state of mind. Because if you go and work with any healthcare organization, you may hear a tune that they are humming behind their breath. Does staying alive means good health? Not really. You can be alive, yes. And believe me, that is a very important part of healthcare, but it's not all about staying alive. You can be alive checking out of the hospital with tubes coming out of every single orifice of your body. Are you in good health? Not necessarily. So if there are three things that I want you to take away from today's conversation, this is thing number one. Absence of undesired outcomes does not constitute achievement of desired outcomes. Let's examine that evidence. What is the most undesired outcomes that we want to avoid when we work with healthcare? Well, it's death. Do we have a definition of death? Oh, yes, we do. Do we have special equipment that measures the death? Yes, we do. You know, flat line here, you are toast, and we have special equipment to do that. Do we have numerical goals for improvement to reduce the incidence of death in certain diseases? Yes, we do. Didn't we just confuse undesired outcomes with desired outcomes? Again, as I said, absence or avoidance of undesired outcomes does not mean that we have achieved desired outcomes. Very, very important point. Sarita, we're ready for the poll number 2.
Will do, sir. So here we go. Do you currently have a customer satisfaction policy in your company? Customer satisfaction policy. So not an initiative, a policy you can look at, know where it's at, and it's related to customer satisfaction. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds. Now or never. It's a yes or no. If you don't know, you can just say yeah, no, if you don't know about it. Okay, we'll close it. And here we go. So 52% yes, 48% no. Again, some of them might be because it's indirectly, they might not be aware or they're not the owners of it. So.
Okay. Great. Okay, let's examine what kind of customer satisfaction policy is it. Here is an example of a customer satisfaction policy from one of the major retailers in US and around the world. Is this really a customer satisfaction policy? Or is this a customer dissatisfaction policy? We guarantee customer satisfaction by refund, replacement, or return. So if you are dissatisfied, we will make you satisfied. So is that truly a satisfaction policy or dissatisfaction policy? Is it staying alive or good health? We keep coming back to that issue, and we're going to keep coming back to that along this presentation, staying alive versus good health. Here is an example that I can share with you of a good customer satisfaction policy, and it is ours, of our company, and it is on our website, and you're welcome to adopt it, and many companies actually went ahead and did that. So, all employees and partners will proactively solicit customer needs and expectations. Can we do this? Yes, we can. Confirm that we have understood those expectations. Can we do that? Yeah. Develop, package, deliver, and support our products to meet those expectations. Can we do this? Well, that's why we're working. Measure the degree to which our customers' expectations have been achieved. I guess we can do that too. Now, this one is a little bit tricky, but especially with IT folks. But you know, we can still manage that one. Yeah, we can do that. So we have many companies that actually took this as a blueprint and then they adapted their own. They changed wording, they changed things, but that was the theme. So this would be more of a customer-centered customer satisfaction policy. And again, as I said, you're welcome to go to our website, c3excellence.com, and take it for your own needs. Scroll all the way down on the homepage and go into the customer satisfaction. So let's go to the nitty-gritty of the stuff. So if we want to design better products and how we're going to achieve that, how can we excel in what we do? In order for us to do that, we need to know what do the customers really want. But before we need to know what they want, we really need to know who they are. And in order for us to know who they are, we need to know what product they're customers for. So let's start with that. Product is a second item on our 3-item list. We talked about outcomes. Now let's talk about product. Product is the connector between the process and the outcome. We created a process to produce something in order to achieve the outcome. So what is the product? Product, in order for us to call something a product, it needs to have these 6 characteristics. You can read them for yourself. And we are thinking, in our way of thinking, we always think that product is something that we can touch. It's something tangible. It's a widget. It's something that we can attribute to, accustomed to. This is what we sell. But I beg to differ. I bet that 99.9% of people who sit at this webinar today are not necessarily produce widgets personally. They are not on the conveyor line producing widgets. So what are we producing? What are we getting paid for at work? To look pretty? Well, that's not for me. I'm not as pretty to get paid for it. So what do I produce? I produce knowledge products. Every single one of us produces knowledge products. We tend to talk about our work as activity. We produce, we audit, we teach, we manage, we report, but we actually, in fact, produce knowledge products. So let's think of our work not as activity, but as products. Here are some examples. If we're auditing, we actually produce audit reports. If you're communicating, we're producing presentations, manuals, emails. If we're coordinating something, we're producing schedules. If we're teaching, we're producing courses. We're producing course outlines. We're producing syllabi. If we are hiring, we produce job descriptions, or we produce qualified candidates. If we think of our work as products, it will open a whole slew of possibilities that we did not have before. And I will discuss that in the next few slides. So, for example, one of the examples, one of the most hated products that every single one of us produce in mass quantity that is unchecked is under communicating. It's emails. Every one of us isn't happy with the emails. How many of those do we get per day? How many of those are actually needed? How many of those are CYA emails? You know, now, if you are into lean in your company, emails is one of the items I would suggest you do a lean project on, because that is the item produced in mass quantities that nobody knows how much it costs, how much time it takes, and there are no policies and procedures and blueprint or manual on how to write a good email and what constitutes a good email. That is actually a great lean project, and you will see how much money your organization can save on that one. But here are some examples. Relationships, is that a product? Not really. You can't really give it to somebody. Information, is that a product? Well, you can argue, yes, it is a product, but it has to be in countable units that could be given to somebody and attributed to somebody. So information is too broad. You need to narrow it down. What kind of information is that? You need to make it in the packageable bite-sized pieces. Then it's a product.
Tony?
Staff, that's definitely, yes.
Just a reminder, we have about 12 minutes before we go question and answer. So I would like everyone, if they start having questions, it is better that they start typing them, since I know you have a lot of good information coming, and we might have many questions. So please start submitting your questions, so we'll answer them in about 12 minutes.
Absolutely, yes. Auditing, that's an activity. Results, that's an outcome. Managing, again, it's an activity. Data, same as information. You need to specify what kind of data we're talking about. For example, report data. What kind of report? Well, you need to specify what reports we're talking about. Planning, that's an activity, again. So now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it. Customers. Who are the customers? Because think about it. If we, all of us, produce products, then all of us have direct customers for those products. These are the different aliases that we can call customers. And one of these is really what I would urge you to think of as your customers. And since we don't have much time, I will tell you that it's a fan. I want you to think of your customers as fans. If you can call them fans, you're in great shape. If you can't, well, you need to do anything is in your power to make sure that your customers are your fans. Why? Well, most of us are fans of major league teams, baseball, football, basketball, whatever. Does your team always win every single time? No. No, they don't. But do you still keep watching them? Yes, you do, because fans are forgiving. Fans know that eventually their team will win. And that's what you want. You want your customers to be your fans, so they believe in you. They know that you will eventually win. So, what are the roles that customers can play with our product? They can be end users. One of the roles customers can play with our product is end users. End users are not a homogeneous group. They come in multiple ways, sexes, ages, races, anything you want. End users are those that ultimately use our product. So let's bring it home. For example, you are an auditor and you create audit report. You are the producer of audit report. Who is the end user of your report? Probably an engineer is your end user of your product. You created a product audit report and you gave it to the end user, an engineer. It has nothing to do with what your actual company produces. It has everything to do with what you personally produce and who is the person using your products that you are producing. Another role that customers can play are the brokers. Brokers are the ones that transfer the product from the end user, from the producer to the end user, and they can work on behalf of the producer or on behalf of the end user or on behalf of themselves. Think about car dealerships. You can't go and buy a car from Toyota or from Honda. You can only buy it from Tesla because they eliminated brokers. But if you want Toyota or Honda, you have to go to a dealership. And dealership doesn't care about you. They care about how much money they're going to make on that car. There are too many examples about it, but that probably is the best one. And finally, there are fixers. Fixers are the ones that have to change, augment, or improve the product on behalf of end user during the lifetime of the product. Those usually are the people on the end of a 1-800 line when we call and say, this thing doesn't work, can you help me fix it? They know in excruciating details what is wrong with the product, how to fix it, and what to do with it, but not many people actually use their information because, you know, they're just customer service representatives. They are not anywhere close to the administration of the company. And unfortunately, they have excellent data that we, a lot of times, are not using. Why is this important? Here is why. If we would be in the room and I would do a game of Pictionary with you and I ask you to draw in 15 seconds what is a prescription, you could have drawn one of these three things. And usually at the table, the first two, the pad of paper or the pills, would be the most common one. I only saw glasses to be drawn 5 times in maybe 5 years. So the correct answer is the very first one, the pad of paper. What is the significance? Here it is. If this is the product, who is the producer of the product? The doctor. Who is the end user? Think about it. Who is the end user of that product? It's the pharmacist. Not the patient, it's the pharmacist. Patient is the broker that delivers the prescription from the producer to the end user, to the pharmacist. It's either patient, you bring the piece of paper to the pharmacy, or it's the nurse that puts the prescription into the electronic system to get it to the pharmacist. But if the pills, the bottle of pills is the product, who is the producer? Pharmaceutical company. Who is the end user? The patient. And then we have a cast of characters as brokers. We have the pharmacist who filled the prescription. We have the doctor that prescribed it. We have the sales dude that came over and told the doctor what to prescribe because he will be reimbursed better for that one. And then we have a friendly HMO that will decide whether they're going to cover that prescription or not. So what is that cast of characters does for the unit cost of that pill? It raises it. So what we want to make sure is we want to see if we can eliminate brokers from our process. And we're coming up to the thing number 2 that I want you to take away from today's lecture. We cannot meaningfully talk about who the customer is until we specify what product they're customers for. Extremely, extremely important. And I'm going to introduce you an example, and I will tell you how this example was solved in the very end, and we have about 5 or 7 minutes left, so it will be very quick. So the problem, our state needs to increase a number of contracts with disadvantaged small businesses. That was an issue that we had in one of the states that we worked with. And this is what they wanted to solve. They wanted to make sure that their small disadvantaged businesses contracting with the state. And right now the percentage was very low. And so what we did is we started looking at the flow of products, not activity, but flow of products of what constituted the contract. What did it take? What kind of products had to be created in order for the state to award the contract? And we used our proprietary tool that we had, and this is how it looked like. This, what you see on your screen, and it's not meant for reading, it's meant for illustration. What you see on your screen is the flow of products of what had to happen from the moment the need was identified that we need to issue this contract to the moment that the contract was awarded. And on average, it was 196 days. 196 days to get the contract from the award state to the moment when the actual papers were signed. What kind of small business can wait 196 days to get a contract? They'll be out of business by the time they'll get it. So stay tuned on how that was solved based on what we did with Voice of the Customer. So if we have customers in a room, we always try to satisfy our customers. But it's always very tricky because we have these two competing variables. One is the performance, another one is perception. Performance is objective. We know how to measure it. We know exactly what it is. Perception is something gray and squishy. It's what customers think. It's what they feel. It's what they want. And you know, Bill Clinton had it right. Don't ask, don't tell. If we don't ask them, they're not going to tell us. We can measure performance from today till tomorrow, but it doesn't necessarily mean that customers were satisfied. We were satisfied, but not the customers, because we don't know what their perception is. So if I will tell you that you are the customer of mine, and I can satisfy only one of these three items, performance, perception, and outcome, it will be a total satisfaction. And but they have to choose one. If you ask the customer, what would be the number one that they will say that they want to be satisfied with? Well, they want to satisfy the outcome. The number two would be perception. Number three would be performance, in that order. What do we measure? And what do we know how to measure? Well, we really know how to measure performance. Then we kind of know how to measure perception, and we really don't measure outcomes. Any issue with that? Well, let me show you how we can actually do that, how we can actually measure perception and outcome. And if you will want this, please email me, and I will send you the handouts for this webinar with all of the stuff in there. And this, we use focus groups and we use word formulas. I told you in the beginning, language is important, and this is where we use it, word formulas. We ask these questions. We usually ask 5 or 6 questions at the focus group. It's highly choreographed affair. And in the end, we ask customers to rank the answers. And then we actually get hard data out of those focus groups that we can use to pipe it back into our Six Sigma initiatives, into the Lean projects, into anything, because it's actionable data. And in February, I will actually be doing a presentation with a black belt person about how we use this data and how we piped it back into Six Sigma project and what was the outcome of that. So
Tony, we have, sorry, Tony, to interrupt you. We have 1 minute. So if you would like to sum it up, and I have questions coming already. And yes, please do share your email, because I have been personally in this workshop, so I know it's a lot of good content and very practical. So they might benefit from going more in depth about it.
If we use those 3 questions, and we were talking about Yellow Pages directory, a satisfying directory is the one which is, and it gives you the function of, it actually gives you the function of the directory. If you will ask the question, a satisfying directory is the one that has, it will give you the features of the directory. And the most important one that answers the customer desired outcomes is, a satisfying directory is the one which results in finding the answer in the first time, making the best use of my time, confidence, stress reduction. Those were the outcomes that we were looking for. And you can actually use that in innovation because we used to have a directory, but we can use the same thing for the website because we don't use Yellow Pages directories anymore. So let me give you to so what. The most important thing is, let me tell you, how many customer voices do we actually have? Think about the outcome. There are 4 dimensions. If we have 4 dimensions of the customer outcomes, how many voices can we have in for each product? We can have 12 voices because we have 3 different roles of the customers with 4 different dimensions. There are 12 different voices. So let me tell you how the project ended up, and it's going to take me literally 1 minute.
Tony, for a second, because we're talking voice of the customer, and one of the comments here is, can we go over? We cannot go over, but what we can do is, if you guys tell me what kind of questions you have and submit them now, I can get an idea on how many questions we have, so we can make a better use of these 15 minutes. If you would like Tony to continue with a more in-depth of his presentation, we can do that. But please, if you have questions, share them now in this minute or 2, so we can basically arrange this remaining 10 minutes depending on that. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in the example on the contract, the original cycle time was 193 days. After we were done with the project, we did the focus groups. We asked customers what they want. Based on that, we collected the data that we had to present to legislature, because legislation had to be changed in that state. They approved the legislation on the first try. After it was implemented, it went down to 16 days. Here is the monitoring. They were going for 80% cycle time reduction. They ended up with actually 90% cycle time reduction of the standard process. In the process, they saved over $1 million in the first 6 months of that project, and they piped that $1 million back into the contracting pool to be awarded to those companies, because they costed the contract, the cost of the contract. And they were able to shave $18,000 in administrative costs from each individual contract that was administered. Huge results based on the focus group results that we did with certain questions that we asked small businesses. So if they could do it, you can do it too. And these are the different places where you can actually use the voice of the customer methodology. And I am ready for your questions. And Sidita, what I will do is I will put the first slide with my email, so if people want to email me questions.
If you have anything else, please continue. I did get some comments that they would like you to continue. As I said, this is a very, I was expecting this since we invited you, because as I said, I've been testimonial of the workshop itself. It was a 2-day full hands-on kind of workshop, and we brought our own issues in those days, and we worked on. This is a topic that initially, when we thought about, as I said before, when I invited you, voice of the customer is something we hear all the time, because that's why we exist, right? And at the end of the day, when I personally attended the workshop, it was more like, okay, so I don't think we think about the customer as we move towards the internal delivery. It can be a process or not process, but we don't think of the end customer, but also, which was one of the comments and first questions that came, about each other. Like when we are within a company, we don't think about each other or cross-functional sort of customers. We don't look at each other as a customer. And I was very glad that you brought up one of the slides that came after the question was raised, about where you show who you are and who the customer is. It really depends on what kind of product we're talking about. Are we talking about the final product that goes to the end user, or are we talking about a report that you need to give to the other department? So one of the questions was, is the sales department the customer of the manufacturing? Which is the core of what's different about the way you bring the voice of the customer, what I've seen out there. Would you elaborate a little bit more on how this whole thing, I even know the book itself, so you might even mention the book here. How did this all started with, and I guess why many companies don't get it. Like, why are we still existing for the customer and then forgetting about it?
Well, a lot of times we hear that when we do a project management workshop or anything like this, one of the biggest issues that we hear all the time is communication. Communication is the problem within the companies. But it's not really a communication that is a problem. The problem is that we don't realize that we all produce products. And we are customers of somebody within our organization. And we produce products that we're giving to our customers. Very, very few of us are actually in the receiving end of the products that come from the outside, or we give something to the outside. Very few of us are outward facing. All of us mostly are transactional people that work for the benefit of people within our company. We don't think of the person who sits next to you at work as your customer.
Exactly.
But they truly could be your customer. And when you start thinking about it in those terms, what is happening, then the product that you're producing all of a sudden gets a totally different meaning. Because if you know that you produced an audit report that the engineer, quality engineer, is going to be using, and quality engineer has an issue with that report or questions, they can go directly to you, the producer, alleviating the broker of being a secretary or the department head or somebody else. So if they can go directly to you and ask you a question, why did you find this, or why did your recommendation is that, eliminating the game of telephone in the beginning, in the middle, that would be way more effective. And then we will not have communication issues within our company.
Absolutely agree. If I remember, and you might remember it too, when you were in Boston with this workshop, we were having a hard time even like writing down a list of the products. And I remember you were asking us, write down a list of a tot amount of products that you deliver. And we were like, but that's all I do, like 2-3 things, because we're thinking about, okay, just the report. Yeah, that can be a product. Then what else do I do? And then I was questioning myself, okay, what am I getting paid for? And so that whole long list that we were being asked to produce was kind of hard to actually define. And then from there it got easier on who do I give it to? So yeah, that's my customer. But even like defining the list of the products was challenging.
Absolutely. It's actually very challenging. And when we work with organizations or with departments, because this system works on the level of a unit, group, department, organization, enterprise, doesn't matter. We usually try to do the inventory of the products, personal products and department products. For example, we worked with an HR department, and they inventoried all of their products. They produced 119 products. And when they looked at the list of products, they were like, why are we producing these? Nobody's using them. Nobody has been using them for the last 6 years. Why are we still producing them? Well, because we've been producing them and nobody questioned it. And, well, aren't these two the same? They're just different names. Yes, they are. So when you even just do the inventory of products in that Notion, you can open up a lot of things that can actually save you a lot of time and money within your own department or even at your own workplace. Think about what you do every day. Think about what you actually do. Think of it as products. And then try to prioritize which are actually things that are important, which products are actually important and which are not. Do I really need to produce these things? And if you talk about work prioritization, that could really serve you wonders, because that will actually tell you whether you're spinning your wheels. You know, we're talking balanced scorecard. We're talking about, you know, whether we use value for the money. Well, think about your own work. And I challenge you to come to work tomorrow and think about or write down every single product that you have created during that day or produced during that day. You'll be very, very surprised. Then, if you want to take it further, think about who the customers are for those products.
Our customers here waiting here, asking questions. So think about them. What does, so just using the site a bit more often, would that still hold the organizations accountable now, knowing what the products are, and also rate them on those basically. It's also, I'm also thinking from an agile perspective now with all the circle sort of way of working. I feel like that has helped me switching from just traditional Lean Six Sigma to agility. And having a product backlog, very clear business requirements, cross-functional team, getting away from silos. Do you think that has been kind of a bridge towards what you are showing?
Absolutely.
Here?
Absolutely, because that is actually the #1 thing that will break those silos, that will break those miscommunications. I mean, agile a lot of times is used in IT departments. Think about IT departments. IT and HR are probably two most isolated departments within the workplace. A lot of times people who work in IT don't really understand what the company produces that they're working for. What is their purpose in that company? But if they all of a sudden would understand that their work is crucial to the end result of the company, which could be engineering design, and they would understand what their role is of the products that they are producing in and how it fits into that engineering design in the end, I believe they would be communicating with you very differently. So this methodology actually tends to break all of those silos, all of those interdepartmental issues. Because if you go directly to the producer of the product and ask them questions without any brokers in between, you know, if you can get a answer within 5 seconds versus 5 days, would it matter? Oh, yes, it would. You
so
just need to know who to ask.
You like someone is asked for your email. Yes, it will be included in our presentation. So when I post presentation,
and it's on the screen.
Yeah, and LinkedIn too, but we'll share the email as well. It's on the slides. So because we'll have 3 minutes, last question we have to cover, because I see it's more particular about the monopoly kind of thing. So when you don't have a choice of much choice, it's about the government organization here. So you don't have much choice of suppliers, then how much focus and emphasis you put on the customer satisfaction, because you are kind of the only provider there, basically. So they either take it from you or that's all they get. Do you feel like in that way will be less care?
No, absolutely not. Actually, believe it or not, the best clients that we've had over the years are the government clients. Right now, currently, I'm working with 2 government entities right now. And one of the biggest things that is a breakthrough for the government entities is they realize that they have customers. They don't have clients, they don't have taxpayers, they don't have hostages, because that's a lot of times what we feel about our government, they're hostages. They have customers. And when they start talking to them as customers, the relationship changes. Believe it or not, our best results come from the government, because if the leadership of the organization, the governmental organization, is actually understanding the concept, the government shines. We have some examples that I did not include here because we didn't have time, that actually are incredible. And when you work with the government, if you supply the government, now in the question, the person was working for the government or their customer was the government? What was the Sarita? Sarita?
It's just a general question. It doesn't. It's just a general statement.
Oh, okay. So the point of view of the government has to change a little bit, because usually, for example, local municipalities, they see everybody as taxpayers.
Well, so there are clients in this case, they're saying. So the government is the supplier, and they're the only supplier for them.
Yes.
So we are at 4, but if you can summarize your response to them, and we have some other items to cover.
Yeah. So so in the summary, if we are the customers of the government, they are the supplier of certain services. We as taxpayers actually can go to the government and tell them what we want. Unfortunately, they won't listen most of the time. But if the government representatives are enlightened and they see their taxpayers as customers, all of a sudden things will change. Government actually has very robust systems, believe it or not, to implement things quicker than you ever thought possible. And I've seen that work. So you have to find the right person in the government who will actually be interested in making things happen.
To listen. Yep, sometimes you have to use those active onboarding kind of people for change. So Tony, thank you so much. You and I know each other for a long time now, so that's beyond my gratefulness towards you being here. I really appreciated what I went through, the content myself, and that's why I really wanted to have you here. And I feel like these kind of webinars go beyond a webinar goal here. We're not here just to provide a credit. We really hope that we have had this year, it's been a very particular year, and that's why we're being more personal this time. It's our first time sharing our cameras. It's everyone this year has gone through something, even if it was just a mental sort of processing. So having these speakers this year and trying to focus the topics towards something that impacts the time they're going through and the way they had to adapt and shift and reflect was initially more on the psychology side of it. We had some webinars at the beginning of the year that had to do with emotional intelligence, had to do with positive psychology, with hiring during this time, facing some challenges as you look for a job or you look for a totally new role, like some people had to reinvent themselves. And talking about reinventing, I thought like thinking about the customer from a different standpoint. No other person better than you could cover this, and the fact that the attendees wanted you to continue shows that. I'm really grateful for this year, the speakers, and also Kieran, who has been always stepping up when I couldn't, and we try to keep going as do the best we could. Both of us had very personal challenges during this year, and we won't be sharing that here, but just so you know, we really feel this community is something that is part of us more than just volunteering. We don't need any credits. None of us needs any credits for this. We do it because we believe in, and we hope to provide some value. If you feel you need something more than what we're doing, actually next year we will launch our first panel discussion. So we'll try to bring more than one speaker together. We will start in January, already set up this morning, a panel discussion about mentoring. We believe that during this year, thinking about mentoring, it was a good point, and mentor could be a person you care for, a person you rely to, or it can be a professional mentor. As Kieran might want to share a bit more about our mentoring program as well, but we'll cover that in depth in January. So Kieran, if you want to introduce why that's important and why you chose that as a topic, that could be a good time.
Yeah, I think the mission that we wanted to bring more diversity into our webinars so far, we have tried to bring different flavors each month and moving on to make it more interactive and share some other pieces of what HD&L is all about. Mentoring is another piece that we offer. I think this year has been a hit that we are now kind of pausing a little bit and in a mission to find a big pool of mentors that can support the mentee request that is coming in. So the whole purpose is to really drill down the requirement and the needs of the mentees and then match them up with appropriate mentors that would work with them for 6 months or more as agreed in the area they are looking support and looking for mentorship. So we would love to have you join us in January. We would talk more about it and how the program is going to go from pilot run to a full phase in 2021 in our January's webinar. And if you have any thoughts about it, Sadita and I would love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, and Kieran, actually, to hear their voice of the customer, since we're talking about voice of the customer, I did add a question, an open question on the survey we have for today about what kind of topic specific to mentorship you would like us to talk about, or questions that we might want to ask the panelists ourselves, you could enter that information tonight when I send the survey that you'll be receiving. And that would be a chance for you to bring your voice, and so we can prepare towards that. Today's presentation will be shared, will be recorded and shared on our YouTube channel in the upcoming days. The presentation itself, the PDF presentation, will be posted on my ASQ, and we will be sharing that today. However, those who got 40 minutes attendance, I will be sending a separate email to you for you to save, basically, and use that for your accreditation with ASQ. Thank you again. Thanks, Tony. We hope you have a good year. I can't say it has to go away. I think everything that comes in life comes for a reason. So let's make the best of it. Let's learn from it, and let's do it better. That's what ASQ is for. So leading towards excellence. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
Enjoy.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.